Hi everyone and welcome to the Game 3 report from the World Chess Championships 2010. Everyone was expecting a sharp game after the rest day, but really it was a relatively quiet one. Topalov had white and opened again with d4, to which Anand replied d5, so not repeating the Grunfeld defense which we saw in game 1. After c4 and c6, the game has gone into the ever-popular Slav variation of the Queen's Gambit declined, a common opening at Grandmaster level. Play continued along the book line. Knight f3, knight f6, knight c3, d takes c4, now a4 hindering b5, now bishop f5 taking control of e4, knight e5, e6 and f3, preparing to create a strong pawn center with e4. So c5, now e4, bishop g6, bishop e3, and c takes d4, and this line leads to an early queen exchange, and it's surprising that Topalov went into it because it's not his usual style. With accurate play, black should draw the resulting position without too much difficulty, but most of the chances will be white's. Presumably this is opening preparation from Topalov, but it didn't seem to be too dangerous anyway. Play continued, queen takes d4, queen takes d4, bishop takes d4, knight fd7, knight takes d7, knight takes d7, and bishop takes c4. So it's a lot of simplification given that we're only 13 moves into the game. White has a space advantage, but that's about it, and we're still well within the book lines. So a6, now rook c1, and this is the first new move of the game. In his World Championship match against Kramnik in 2006, Topalov played king e2 at this stage instead, and this variation is very safe for white, but unsurprisingly quite drawish, and for a World Championship match a bit unambitious in my opinion, especially from Topalov. Here Vishy played the unorthodox rook g8, just jettisoning castling rights to relieve the pressure on g7 so he can develop his dark squared bishop. His king being stuck in the center is not so much of a problem with the queens off the board, although he does still have to be careful, of course. There's even some advantage in not castling once the endgame is reached, as the kings will already be close to the center. So h4, threatening to trap the bishop, h6 making space, now king e2, it's a logical move, just connecting the rooks, bishop d6, h5, bishop h7 and a5, gaining space on both sides of the board at the cost of creating some weak squares, but it's nothing serious. He's now also able to play knight a4 to b6, but there's also the threat at the same time of bishop b4, forcing rook a1 to hold on to the a pawn. Perhaps Topalov had some preparation in that variation, it's hard to know, but maybe likely. Vishy didn't elect for it anyway, and instead played king e7, similarly to Topalov's king e2, just connecting the rooks and keeping everything solid. So knight a4, and now f6, blunting the pressure from the d4 bishop, preparing to bring the g8 bishop to a better post. Sorry, not the g8 bishop, the h7 bishop to g8 and to a better post that way, and perhaps reroute the badly posted rook here at g7, sorry, at g8. And gradually Vishy is solving the problems of his position, and it's really, at this moment it was up to Topalov to act quickly to take advantage of his better placed pieces, but he wasn't really able to do so, but not without want of trying. Here he offered a pawn with b4, and he would have good activity for it as compensation if Anand was to accept. However, he didn't, and instead played rook gc8, sticking to what seems to be his strategy of frustrating Topalov by giving him as little activity as possible and no attacking chances. Let's have a look at what might have happened had he accepted. If bishop takes b4, now rook b1, bishop takes a5 and rook takes b7, with strong pressure along the 7th rank, this powerfully placed 7th rank rook, and immediate threats like knight c5 looking strong as compensation for the pawn. So rook gc8 and now bishop c5, forcing the dark squared bishops off the board, which Anand was glad to do because he's most probably playing for a draw. So bishop takes c5, which is better than knight takes c5, because after b takes c5, if bishop takes c5, white has bishop takes e6 with a big edge. So bishop takes c5, b takes c5, now rook c7, preparing to double rooks and intensify the pressure on the c pawn. Knight b6, rook d8, knight takes d7, rook d takes d7, leading to a fairly equal endgame, although black's bishop is a little better given the pawn structure. So bishop d3 and now bishop g8, bringing the bishop to a more active post. An interesting alternative was f5, activating the light squared bishop. For example, c6, undermining a6, after b takes c6, now bishop takes a6, f takes c4, and bishop c4, giving up a pawn for compensation in the form of white's passed a pawn. So bishop g8 is what was actually played in the game. Now c6 and rook d6. If instead rook takes c6, now rook takes c6, b takes c6, and rook b1, gaining control of the only open file with some advantage due to rook b6 coming next. So rook d6 anyway, now c takes b7, rook takes b7, rook c3, and bishop f7, taking aim at the h-pawn and preparing bishop e8 to reactivate the light square bishop. So king e3, now bishop e8, g4, e5, and we're going into a very equal endgame, where despite black having the better bishop, there's no real advantage, and indeed neither side was able to demonstrate any advantage for the remainder of the game. So rook hc1, and Topalov does have total control of the c-file now, but there's not much he can do with it really. So bishop d7, now rook c5, and bishop b5, offering the exchange of bishops. Quite a strange decision, as it gives white a slight edge after bishop takes b5 and a takes b5, but realistically there are no chances, and Anand is simply playing for a draw. Now it's a matter of pushing the b-pawn until the exchange of the queenside pawns is forced, after which a draw is the inevitable conclusion. The rest of the game is fairly academic, but I'll show it in any case, just in case you're interested to see how it finished up. Rook b1, b4, rook b3, rook a6, king d3, an active king, rook ba7, and these pawns are coming off. Now one pair of rooks comes off, and rook b7 check, king f8, king e2, and now a draw by repetition with the rook a2 check, king e3, rook a3 check, king f2, rook a2 check, king e3, etc. And after 45 moves and king e3 for the third time, it's a draw. So all in all, it was a good result for Vishy, as it was a solid game, and a draw with black isn't bad, and he managed to keep Topalov restrained from getting any kind of attacking play. So it'll be interesting to see what he opens with tomorrow, Vishy I mean. Presumably it'll be d4 again, but I'm still harbouring a bit of hope for Sicilian. It would be great to see. So I hope to see you there anyway, and I hope that you enjoyed this commentary. Please leave any comments or thoughts. Thanks very much.